Imagine a packed diner on a Friday night where my 17-year-old daughter, Emily, gets slapped by a customer for asking a simple question about the bill. That customer, Karen, had no idea the storm she'd just unleashed. The Sunnyvale diner, nestled in a small Ohio town, was alive at 7:30 p.m. The dinner rush filled the air with the clatter of plates, the sizzle of burgers on the grill, and the faint hum of a jukebox spinning classic rock. Locals crowded the red vinyl booths, their laughter mingling with the aroma of fries and coffee. A policy sign at the host stand outlined payment procedures, including options for splitting bills, its bold letters hard to miss. Security cameras, small but vigilant, watched over the dining room, their lenses catching every moment. Tom, the 50-year-old owner, moved with purpose in the kitchen. A former high school football coach, he was known for his fairness and deep ties to the community. His broad shoulders and quick smile made him a steady presence, ensuring orders flowed smoothly while keeping an eye on the floor through the pass-through window. This was his diner, his pride, a place where families gathered and stories unfolded. Out on the floor, Emily, Tom's 17-year-old daughter, weaved through the crowd. It was her first job and she took it seriously. Her notepad was tucked into her apron, scribbled with orders and shorthand tips she'd learned from veteran servers. At 17, she was still finding her footing with customers, her polite smile masking the nervous energy of navigating a busy shift. Her ponytail bobbed as she balanced plates, her focus sharp despite the chaos. At booth 12, Karen sat with 3 friends. At 45, she cut a striking figure in a flashy blazer and designer sunglasses perched atop her head. Her sharp tone had already marked her as trouble, first complaining about the slow service, then sending back a perfectly good salad for being too leafy. Her friends dressed more modestly, exchanged glances but said little, their menace shielding them from her complaints. Karen's voice carried, drawing side eyes from nearby tables. The night hummed along until Emily approached booth 12 with a check. Following the diner's policy, she clutched her notepad and asked brightly, "Would you like to split the bill among the group?" It was a routine question, one she'd asked dozens of times that week. But Karen's reaction was anything but routine. Her eyes narrowed, her lips pursed, and in a flash, she stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Before anyone could react, her hand swung, connecting with Emily's cheek in a sharp slap. The crack echoed over the jukebox. "How dare you assume we can't pay together?" Karen snapped, her voice dripping with venom. The diner froze. Forks paused mid-air, conversation stalled, and heads turned toward booth 12. Emily's hand flew to her cheek, her notepad trembling in her grip. Karen's friends gasped, one muttering, "Oh my God, Karen, what are you doing?" But Karen stood tall, unapologetic, her blazer gleaming under the diner's fluorescent lights. In the kitchen, Tom's head snapped up at the sound. A server rushed to his side, whispering urgently. His jaw tightened, and he wiped his hands on his apron, already moving toward the dining room. The security cameras whirred silently, capturing every second. The policy sign loomed at the host stand, a quiet reminder of the rules Karen had just shattered. Have you ever witnessed a customer flip out over something trivial in a restaurant? Share your craziest story in the comments, and predict how Karen's night ended. Karen's slap stunned the diner, but the real battle was just beginning. The Sunnyvale diner, still buzzing at 7:35 p.m., seemed to hold its breath. The jukebox churned out a low riff, but the clatter of plates had quieted, all eyes on booth 12. Emily stood frozen, her cheeks stinging red, clutching her notepad like a lifeline. Her eyes glistened, but she bit her lip, refusing to let tears fall. The weight of every stare pressed against her, yet she straightened, forcing a shaky breath. Karen's friends shrank in their booth, one muttering a feeble, "I'm so sorry," while another hid behind her menu, avoiding the scene. In the kitchen, a server's urgent whisper reached Tom. "It's Emily. She got hit." His face hardened, the warmth of his usual grin replaced by a steely edge. Wiping his hands on his apron, he strode through the swinging doors, his heavy steps echoing in the now hushed dining room. The security cameras tracked his approach, their lenses glinting above. As he reached Emily, he scanned her face, noting the red mark blooming on her cheek. His voice, low and controlled, cut through the tension. "You okay, Em?" She nodded, barely audible, and he turned to Karen, his gaze unyielding. "Mom, you need to leave. Now, what you just did isn't just against our rules. It's against the law." Karen scoffed, tossing her designer sunglasses onto the table with a clatter. Her flashy blazer caught the light as she crossed her arms, her purse clutched tightly against her side. "This girl disrespected me," she snapped, pointing at Emily, who flinched but held her ground. "She implied we couldn't pay together. I want to speak to the owner." Her voice rose shrill and indignant, unaware that Tom, standing firm in his checkered shirt, was both the owner and Emily's father. She dug into her purse, pulling out her phone. "You'll be hearing about this in my 1-star review." The dining room stirred. At a nearby booth, John, a regular with a weathered baseball cap, set down his coffee mug with a thud. "That's unacceptable," he said, loud enough for others to hear, his voice gravelly with disgust. Other diners shifted, some whispering in disbelief, their forks forgotten. A young couple near the jukebox pulled out their phones, the glow of their screens flickering as they began to record. The policy sign at the host stand stood sentinel, its bill-splitting clause now a silent rebuke to Karen's outburst. Tom kept his eyes on Karen, his tone steady but laced with warning. "You don't get to put your hands on my staff. You've got one chance to walk out before this escalates." Emily, still clutching her notepad, stepped back toward a coworker, her cheek throbbing but her resolve firm. The cameras above whirred, capturing every word, every gesture. Karen's arrogance turned the diner into a stage for her downfall. At 7:45 p.m. the Sunnyvale diner crackled with tension. The jukebox's classic rock faded into the background as Karen paced near booth 12, her flashy blazer swishing with each step. Her purse dangled from one arm, her phone now raised as she filmed Tom, her voice sharp. "This is harassment," she declared, accusing Emily of ruining her evening with insulting questions about the bill. She demanded a full refund, waving her free hand dramatically. Her friends, slouched in the booth, looked mortified. One tugged at Karen's sleeve, whispering, "Please just stop." But Karen shook her off, her sunglasses slipping down her nose. Tom stood firm, his checkered shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms tensed with restraint. "I'm the owner," he said, his voice cutting through her tirade, "and Emily's my daughter. You assaulted a minor, ma'am. That's serious under Ohio law." He cited Ohio Revised Code and 290313, his tone calm but unyielding, as he reached for the walkie-talkie clipped to his belt. "Police are on their way," he added, keying the device to call the nearby station. The policy sign at the host stand, visible behind him, underscored the diner's rules, its bill-splitting clause now a silent witness to Karen's unraveling. The dining room buzzed with defiance. John, the regular in the baseball cap, stood from his booth, his voice booming. "Get out, lady. You don't touch a kid like that." Other diners nodded, their whispers turning to murmurs of agreement. Lisa, a mother at a nearby table, angled her phone to capture the scene, her thumbs already tapping to share the video. The crowd's disapproval swelled, forks clinking as diners leaned forward, their meals forgotten. The security cameras hummed overhead, their lenses trained on the escalating drama. Emily, supported by a coworker near the counter, wiped her eyes with a trembling hand. Her cheek still burned, but she squared her shoulders, determined not to crumble. She tucked her notepad into her apron. Catching Tom's eye, he gave her a quick nod, pride flickering in his expression despite the chaos. She stepped back onto the floor, her presence a quiet act of defiance. Karen's accusations grew wilder, her phone shaking as she filmed.
"This diner's a joke! You're all ganging up on me!"
Her friends, now gathering their coats, edged toward the exit, their faces flushed with embarrassment. The jukebox clicked to a new song, its upbeat tempo clashing with the charged atmosphere. When the police walked in, Karen's confidence evaporated like steam from a hot plate. By 8:00 p.m., the Sunnyvale Diner was a pressure cooker of anticipation. The jukebox's latest track played softly, drowned out by the murmur of diners craning to see booth 12. Karen, still pacing, clutched her purse tightly, her flashy blazer now slightly askew. Her phone, once wielded like a weapon, hung limply in her hand as she muttered about unfair treatment. Her friends, desperate to distance themselves, hovered near the booth, their coats draped over their arms. The policy sign at the host stand stood firm, its bill-splitting clause a quiet testament to the rule Karen had so violently rejected. Overhead, the security cameras whirred, their unblinking lenses capturing every second of the unfolding drama. The diner's front door swung open, and 2 police officers stepped inside, their boots thudding against the checkered floor. The taller one, Officer Daniels, nodded to Tom, recognizing him from a recent community fundraiser. His partner, Officer Ruiz, scanned the room, her hand resting lightly on her radio. The crowd parted as they approached, the air thick with expectation. Tom met them halfway, his walkie-talkie now clipped back to his belt. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice steady. "My daughter, Emily, was assaulted by this customer." He gestured toward Karen, who froze mid-step, her sunglasses slipping further down her nose. Emily stood near the counter, her notepad tucked away, her cheeks still red but her posture resolute. A coworker lingered nearby, offering a supportive squeeze on her shoulder. Tom's earlier nod had anchored her, and though her heart raced, she met the officer's eyes with quiet strength. The diners watched, some leaning forward, others clutching phones that still recorded the scene. Officer Daniels turned to Lisa, the mother who'd been filming from a nearby table. "Mom, you got that video?" he asked. Lisa nodded, her fingers swift as she pulled up the footage on her phone. The officers huddled briefly, watching the clear image of Karen's hand striking Emily's cheek, followed by her shrill outburst. Daniels then glanced at Tom. "Mind if we check your security footage?" Tom led them to the small office behind the counter, where the diner's cameras fed into a grainy monitor. The footage was unmistakable: Karen's slap, Emily's recoil, and the stunned reactions of her friends, all time-stamped at 7:30 p.m. The policy sign was visible in the corner of the frame, reinforcing the diner's protocol. Back in the dining room, Officer Ruiz approached Karen, her expression neutral but firm. "Mom, we've reviewed the evidence. You're under arrest for assault." She cited Ohio Revised Code 290313, noting that assaulting a minor carried enhanced penalties, potentially a misdemeanor with up to $1,000 in fines or 6 months in jail. Karen's face drained of color, her purse slipping slightly in her grip.
"This is a misunderstanding,"
she stammered, stepping back.
"She provoked me. She insulted us."
Her voice cracked, the earlier bravado replaced by panic. Her friends, now at the edge of the booth, looked away, one shaking her head in silent disapproval. The diners erupted in whispers, some stifling laughter at Karen's flimsy excuses. John, the regular in the baseball cap, crossed his arms, muttering, "Provoked, give me a break." Lisa's camera remained steady, capturing Karen's unraveling for her growing ex-post. The officers, unmoved, stepped closer. "Turn around." "Ma'am," Ruiz instructed, pulling out handcuffs. Karen's eyes darted to her friends, but they were already inching toward the exit, their coats clutched tightly. With a final protest, "You can't do this." Karen complied, her wrists clicking into the cuffs. The sound sent a ripple through the crowd. As the officers escorted Karen toward the door, her purse fell to the floor with a thud. Tom, ever practical, scooped it up and placed it behind the counter, noting its designer logo with a wry shake of his head. "I'll hold it for the police," he said to Daniels, who nodded. Karen's friends, now fully detached, slipped out ahead of her, their faces flushed with embarrassment. The door swung shut behind them, leaving Karen's purse as the last trace of their presence. The dining room broke into applause, a wave of relief and triumph washing over the crowd. John raised his coffee mug in a mock toast, calling out, "Good riddance. Others joined in, some praising Emily's composure. "Kid's tougher than she looks," a trucker at the counter said, nodding approvingly. Lisa, still filming, tagged Sunnyvale Diner in her ex-post, her caption reading, "Fade justice for Emily." John approached Officer Daniels, offering to provide a witness statement. "Saw the whole thing," he said, tapping his cap. "Happy to help." Tom crossed the room to Emily, his expression softening. "You okay, kiddo?" he asked, resting a hand on her shoulder. She nodded, a small smile breaking through. "Yeah, Dad. I'm okay." Her voice was steady, her resilience shining. Tom turned to the diners, his voice carrying over the fading applause. "Folks, thank you for standing by us. This diner's family, and we look after our own." The crowd murmured agreement, their loyalty to the Sunnyvale Diner palpable. The jukebox clicked to a new song, its upbeat chords a stark contrast to Karen's exit. The security cameras continued their silent vigil, the policy sign unmoved at the host stand. Emily adjusted her apron, ready to resume her shift, her notepad still tucked safely inside. Karen's night in handcuffs was bad, but her troubles were far from over. Karen's slap didn't just hurt Emily, it sparked a movement that shook our town. Days after the incident, the Sunnyvale Diner hummed with a new energy. The dining room, still warm with the scent of burgers and coffee, was packed with regulars and newcomers alike, drawn by a story that had exploded online. Lisa's video, posted to X with hashtags like Dinner Karen and For Justice for Emily, racked up thousands of views within hours. The grainy clip, showing Karen's slap, her shrill protests, and the police escort, spread like wildfire, amplified by the diner's security footage that Tom had shared with the local news. By the following Monday, the story was everywhere from X threads to evening broadcasts. The community rallied around the diner. Regulars flooded the red vinyl booths, leaving tips that overflowed Emily's apron pockets. John, the baseball cap wearing regular, slipped an extra $20 into her hand, winking. "For staying tough, kid." Families brought handwritten cards praising Emily's courage, while others posted glowing reviews online, calling the diner a gem worth protecting. A local hardware store owner, moved by the news coverage, donated funds for staff training, insisting, "Would take care of our own." The diner buzzed with a "support our servers" night where every table was filled and the jukebox played late into the evening. Emily, her notepad back in hand, moved through the crowd with a shy smile, her cheek no longer red but her confidence visibly growing. Karen, meanwhile, faced a brutal reckoning. Identified through X as a local insurance agent, her name became synonymous with infamy. Her employer suspended her indefinitely, citing conduct unbecoming. Her ex-posts, where she tried to spin the incident as misunderstanding, were mercilessly mocked, earning her the nickname Slap, Happy Karen. In viral threads, commenters dug into her past complaints, petty reviews of coffee shops and salons, painting a picture of chronic entitlement. Her friends, who'd fled the diner that night, cut contact, unwilling to be tied to her disgrace. Even her family faced whispers at the grocery store, their heads bowed under the weight of her actions. Karen's purse, retrieved by a cousin via the police, was one of the few things she hadn't lost. Legally, Karen's troubles mounted. She was charged with misdemeanor assault on a minor under Ohio Revised Code 2903-3, facing a potential $100,000 fine and community service. The diner banned her for life, a decision Tom announced with a new sign at the host stand: "Respect our staff or stay out." The security cameras, still whirring above, stood as a reminder of the evidence that had sealed her fate. Local news interviewed Tom, who spoke with quiet conviction about protecting his daughter and his staff. "This diner's a family," he said, standing by the counter where Karen's purse had briefly rested. Emily, in a separate interview, shared her story with poise, saying, "I just want to keep working and move forward." Her words resonated, turning her into a local hero. The viral spread brought more than attention. It brought change. Ex-users shared their own stories of entitled customers, sparking discussions about respecting service workers. The diner's policy sign, once overlooked, became a talking point, with other restaurants adopting similar clarity in their rules. Tom used the hardware store's donation to schedule de-escalation training, ensuring his staff, especially young servers like Emily, felt equipped for tough situations. The community's support transformed the diner into a symbol of resilience, its checkered floors and red booths now hallowed ground for a stand against bullying. Karen's fallout was a cautionary tale. Her suspension left her scrambling, her reputation in tatters. Ex-post tracked her every move, from a rumored apology letter, never confirmed, to sightings at a rival diner, where she was reportedly turned away. The nickname Slap, Happy Karen, stuck, a digital scarlet letter she couldn't escape. Her friend's absence and her family's humiliation underscored the isolation her actions had earned. The purse, returned to her cousin, was a small detail in a larger collapse, a reminder of the night she'd lost control. Emily, by contrast, thrived. The tips and kind words bolstered her, and she began training a new server, her notepad now filled with tips for handling tough customers. Tom watched her with pride, occasionally glancing at the security cameras, knowing they'd captured not just a crime but a turning point. The diner's business soared, its role as a community hub cemented. Karen's shame was spreading, but justice was about to seal her fate. Karen learned the hard way. Entitlement crumbles in a town that values respect. Weeks after the incident, the Sunnyvale diner stood stronger than ever. The legal hammer fell on Karen in a small Ohio courtroom, where she faced the consequences of her actions. Pleading guilty to misdemeanor assault under Ohio Revised Code 290313, she received an $800 fine and 50 hours of community service at a local youth center. A fitting irony for someone who'd struck a teenager. The judge's ruling was clear: her behavior was unacceptable, and the ban from Sunnyvale Diner was upheld for life. Karen's reputation, already shredded by viral X-posts and the Happy Karen moniker, took another hit. She left the courtroom head bowed, her flashy blazer replaced by a plain jacket, a shadow of the woman who'd stormed booth 12. The diner, meanwhile, thrived as a beacon of community spirit. Tom, ever the pragmatic leader, used the momentum to strengthen his business. He introduced de-escalation training for his staff, funded by the hardware store's donation, ensuring servers like Emily could handle difficult customers with confidence. The policy sign at the host stand was updated with bolder text: "Respect our staff. Bill splitting available upon request." Customers nodded approvingly, snapping photos of the sign to share on X, where fast support or servers continued to trend. The security cameras, still vigilant overhead, became a quiet symbol of accountability, their footage from that night now a legend in town. Emily, now a seasoned server, moved through the dining room with newfound assurance. Her notepad, once a nervous crutch, was now a tool of mastery, filled with shorthand orders and tips she shared with new hires. Customers greeted her warmly, some calling her the toughest kid in Ohio, with playful grins. The generous tips from the "Support Our Servers" night had padded her college fund, but the real reward was the community's embrace. She'd faced Karen's wrath and emerged stronger, a quiet hero in a red apron. Tom, watching her laugh with a regular at the counter, felt a swell of pride, knowing the diner had shaped her resilience. The diner itself saw record business, its red vinyl booths and checkered floors packed daily. Families, drawn by the story of justice, made it a point to visit, ordering burgers and milkshakes while praising the staff. The jukebox, once drowned out by Karen's outburst, now played to a lively crowd, its classic rock a backdrop to laughter and clinking plates. Local news ran a follow-up feature, calling Sunnyvale Diner a community hub where fairness wins. The story's reach on X, fueled by Lisa's viral video and hashtags like #FakeDinerKaren, inspired other towns to rally around their local businesses, turning a single incident into a broader call for respect. The moral of the story resonated deeply. Service workers, especially young ones like Emily, deserve respect, and communities have the power to hold entitled individuals accountable. Karen's downfall was a stark reminder that actions have consequences. especially in a close-knit town that valued fairness over flash. Her community service at the youth center, where she'd face teens not unlike Emily, was a poetic twist, forcing her to confront the very demographic she'd wronged. Her isolation, friends gone, employer distant, family humiliated, underscored the cost of her arrogance. The diner's triumph went beyond one woman's punishment. It showed how a single act of defiance, like Emily's resolve or Tom's steady leadership, could galvanize a town. The incident, captured by those unblinking security cameras, wasn't just about a slap, it was about a community refusing to let entitlement win. Every tip left for Emily, every new customer through the door, was a vote for justice and family, values that defined Sunnyvale. Love this story of justice and community spirit? Hit that like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to ring the bell for more inspiring tales! In a diner where every worker matters, one Karen's outburst only strengthened our bond.